In this video, I'm going to show you how to create a fire risk assessment report using our surveying app, Flow Mobile Surveying, and following the PAS79 standard. Our goal is to make it as quick as possible for you to collect on-site survey data and create compliance reports for your clients. So before I start, I'll explain there's two parts to the software. There's the dashboard, which you can see here on the left-hand side, and there's the mobile app, which you can see here on the right-hand side. The dashboard and the mobile app work together in real time. So if you make any changes in the office using the dashboard, it'll be instantly reflected on the mobile app and vice versa. So a common question we get asked at this point in the demo is, does the app work offline? And the answer is yes, the app is designed to work offline. You shouldn't really notice any difference whether you're working online or offline. The app should just work as expected. The moment you get an internet connection, the data should just sync up automatically. There's no concept of a sync button, it should just sync up and just work the way you expect it to. So before you go to site to carry out your fire risk assessment survey, you'll need to create a job. The job is where your report will live. There are two ways to create a job in Flow Mobile Surveying. The first, which I'm about to show you shortly, is to create a job using the dashboard when you're in the office. There's another way, which is to create what's called a draft job on the mobile app. I'm not going to cover that now. We've got a separate video on that. Please check it out if you get a chance. But that's a great option if you are on the fly and you need to add a job while you're out of the office. So let's create a job in the usual way using the dashboard. First, let's press the Create Job button here. Now, type in the name of the client. If you're working with an existing client, just start typing the name and select them from the drop down. I'm working for a new client, so I'm just going to start typing the name. You can see it's prompting me to create this new client because they don't already exist. If you have an internal job reference, pop that in here, like so. We call it a project. Now the address is where you're going to be doing the work, so I'm going to put in an address which I've saved to my clipboard, and you can optionally also pinpoint the location. If I hold the Control key down on my keyboard, I can zoom in and select a different part of the building, for example. This map will get used for directions on the mobile app, and it will also be used on the report. So if you know the exact location, it is useful to pinpoint it. Now, I'm going to miss UPRNs. It's unique property reference number. Most people don't use this. The pipeline is the type of work that you're doing. So in this case, I'm doing a fire risk assessment. And the pipeline determines the stages that the job needs to go through before it's considered complete. We'll come back to this a little bit at the end. Tags are where you can additionally categorize the job. So for example, you might have commercial for a commercial property. There are tags I've added for things like urgent, revisit 12 months, and so on. You create tags for whatever it is you want. Essentially, this makes the search more powerful, which we'll see at the end. So do use tags if you want to get the most out of the search in the jobs list. So next is the value. This is how much the job is worth to yourself. I'm going to say £500. Notes are private notes for yourself on site. So I could say something like keys in lockbox, code 1234. Now, there are a few different ways you can schedule up a job. The first is simply to put in the date. If you know the start time, you can put that in too. And if you know the end date and time, you can pop those in here as well. There's no reason why it has to be a single day. It could also be multiple days. So for example, if this was a week-long job, we could end it on the 29th. Next is to assign this to multiple users. I'm going to assign this to myself, and I'll assign this to Amber. The due date is where you expect to get the report to your client. So let's say the 29th, assuming that's the end of the job. Now, because I'm logged in as me here, and because I've assigned the job to myself, this should appear on the app on the right-hand side as soon as we click Save. That's that real-time data sync I was talking about. Let's click Save and see what happens. So you can see that's synced up to the app immediately. And because we said this was a multi-day job, it's appearing in multiple days on the app. You've got it on the Tuesday, the Wednesday, the Thursday, and so on. What we'll do now is we'll edit this job and we'll make it a bit simpler. So let's take off that end date and time, click Save, and you can see there we've now got the job only appearing on the Tuesday at 9 o'clock. Let's edit this again and we'll remove the time. Now this is classed as what we call an all-day event. So if you've carefully planned your vehicle route and your jobs for the day, you'll want to put the time in because the app will sort jobs in time order. If you're not bothered about the time and the sequence in which you go through the jobs, so your surveyors go through jobs, just leave the time off and it gets classed as an all-day event. Now the next thing to do is to add the report. You can add the report in the office using the dashboard or on site, it's up to you. If you want to pre-fill some information about the job, for example the scope of work and so on, then I would suggest doing this in the office using the dashboard. Let's go ahead and do that now. Now select the template that you're going to be using. I'm going to select this one here and we can go ahead and pre-fill some information. So general information prompts you for some information about the property. It could be that you have gathered this information with the client over the phone or on some sort of call. So you can fill this in if you have this information. If you want to omit any of these parts from the report, select this checkbox here. So I'm not going to fill all of this in. I'm going to put some basic information about the construction. So I'm going to say brick building with clock tower. Click save. As soon as you complete a section, it will become checked off with this little tick mark, as you can see here. So far, everything we've done has been in the dashboard in the office. You'll use the mobile app to collect survey data on site. The app's designed to work for iOS and Android, phones and tablets. We've made the app as simple as possible to use, with time-saving features like copying items and copying rooms. So now that we've scheduled up the job and input some pre-survey data, we can switch over to the mobile app and collect some data on site, as if we were doing the survey. So the first thing you might want to do is view the job notes. There's that little message we left for ourselves in the office. This is a great place to put things like telephone numbers because you can copy these and paste them into your phone app. Next is we'll drill into the job and you can see that commercial tag is visible front and center. So tags are also a great way, as you can see, to convey important information to your team. The next thing you'll notice is the pipeline stages. So because we assigned the job to the Fire Risk Assessments pipeline, there are these 3 stages you're expected to complete: site work, QC, and issued. We can customize the pipeline stages to match your process. So for example, if you always do floor plans, we could have an additional floor plan stage. Or if you wanted to record whether you'd invoice someone or not, we could add an additional invoice stage either before or after issued. It will be up to you. Whatever your process is, we want to get as close as possible to that rather than you trying to follow our process. Next, we can get directions. If you press this button here, it will open up Google Maps if you're on an Android device, or Apple Maps if you're on an iOS device, and then you'll be given directions to the site, in this case, Bankhouse, Newcastle. Alternatively, if using something like Waze for navigation, you can press this button to copy the address to your clipboard and then paste it into your navigation app. So that's another way you can get directions. Now let's take a look at the report that we've previously created in the office. You can see that the general information has now been synced, and we can see the construction of the building here. So that's that real-time data sync again from the dashboard to the mobile app. Once we know what we're doing, we can crack on with the work. And the first thing to do will be to take a photo of the building, which will form part of your cover page. So let's do that now. Normally you'd use this top option, which should open up the native camera on your phone or your tablet. Because I'm using a simulator, I'm going to select an image from my gallery instead. So here's an image of the building. And I can put a caption here if I want to. I'm going to leave that blank for now. So now the cover page has been added, we can move on to the next step. Things like the executive summary, you're likely to want to do at the end, so I'm going to leave that blank for now. Really the thing I want to be doing is to go into the inspection and action plan. And this is where you're going to spend most of your time on site as a surveyor. The PAS79-1 standard includes 91 default hazards. We use a preset to allow you to add all of those hazards in one go, to save you from having to remember them. You can delete the ones that aren't appropriate or mark them as not applicable. So to add the preset, tap this button here. Now you can either add all of the presets in one go using this top option, or you can add the individual hazard groups if you find that's more appropriate. So for example, this will add 5 hazards, this one will add 5, this one will add 2, and so on. I would say it's either this one or the ones below. So I'm going to add all the hazards, and you can see here it's expanded out each of these questions to allow us to answer them. I'm going to actually collapse this by going out and back in again, just to make it a bit clearer. So that should be a bit more obvious what's going on. If we expand out the arson category, you can see we have two questions here. I'm going to go ahead and answer one of them. So here we go. You can see the category and the hazard have already been filled in. We just need to go through the rest of the form and see what we found. So this one is non-compliant. For the comments, I'll say bins are too close to the building. Next, we'll take a photo to prove what we found. Here we go. And the recommendations in this case could just be move bins to a safe location. The priority, I'm going to say low and click save. Now with our app, you're not restricted to just one answer per question. You could have multiple answers to the question because there could be multiple occurrences of a hazard, some of which may be compliant, some of which may be non-compliant. So let's imagine we found another bin hazard. We can swipe to the right to make a copy of this one, just as a bit of a time saver. I'm going to say it's exactly the same as the other one. We're not going to copy the photos, because we're going to take some fresh ones, of course. But yeah, everything else is the same. I'm going to change the priority on this one. I'll press continue to basically pull that information from the first item into this new one we're now creating. But the category, the hazard are the same. It's still non-compliant. The issue is still that the bins are too close to the building, but perhaps this is a more serious issue due to the location, or there could be a greater hazard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this image here this time. You can see it's a slightly different image of some bins. And we're going to call this a medium hazard this time. I'm going to click save. And there you go. We've now got two occurrences of that same hazard. Perhaps they're in the same location, different locations. You could specify that with your comments. But you just continue on in the same way, just noting down any occurrences of hazards that you found. So I've now answered this question about these potential arson risks. Let's go ahead and do another one. I'm going to use the search to find fire extinguishers, because we found a fire extinguisher that isn't quite right for its location. So I'm going to select this one here. I'm going to say it's non-compliant, and the comments are fire extinguisher is incorrect type for location. I'm going to take another photo. Put in a comment, and the recommendation is just going to be replace with correct extinguisher. Let's say priority is high and click save. We'll do one final one, which is going to be a compliant, just to keep the report interesting. So this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to search for electric. I'm going to say this one is compliant. We've checked that the installations were inspected and tested. I'm just going to put some image here of some electrical wires, and there's no priority recommendation needed for this one. So I'll click save. So we've now got a combination of non-compliance and compliance, and you can see we just continue on in the same way as you go. If there are any areas which aren't applicable, you can do one of two things. So you can either swipe to the left to delete. That will delete, in this case, that whole hazard group. Or alternatively, if you want to keep the hazard in the report but show that it is not applicable, all you would do then is mark this as NA, not applicable. So you can have that combination of compliance, non-compliance, not applicable, and if something really shouldn't be in the report at all, the other option is you can delete the hazard entirely. So let's imagine we've finished with our fire risk assessment. We've captured information about these hazards all the way around the site. The next thing you want to do is just to mark off the site work as complete. That's that pipeline that we're updating, and we'll come back to this at the end. So let's head back over to the dashboard, and we'll take a little look at the report. So before downloading the final PDF to send to your client, you'll have a chance to preview the report using a live report preview and make any changes you need to before you issue the report. Let's take a look at that live report preview now. To do that, select a layout from the drop-down. Now you can have different layouts depending on how you want to present the data. It could be that you've got one report for a particular client, which is slightly different to a report from another client. Alternatively, you might have a full compliance report and a one that just does the remedial actions. So we can change the reports to present the data in a different way and show different data as well. In this case, I'm going to select the Fire Risk Assessment layout and we'll take a peek at how this looks. Now I'm going to full screen this preview so we can see a little bit better. First of all, there's obviously some issues. We'll come back to them at the end. Here's that image of the building that we took. It's telling us the type of assessment we did, where it took place, and when it took place too. So all of our reports come with a standard cover page, but we want your reports to be the best looking reports in the industry. That's why we also offer a bespoke cover page design service where you will end up with something a bit more like this. These are some of the custom cover pages we've designed for our clients. And everyone is different. You can work with our cover page designer to create something on brand. They'll have a look at your website, your branding, your logo and so on, and create something that's unique to you. Okay, so let's explore the rest of the report. Here you can see there are some errors to resolve. We've got some missing information which we haven't entered yet. So we'll come back to these shortly and start resolving these errors. The report details has been mostly pulled through from the job when we set it up. So we can see here who the client is, the project, the address, and so on. You can also see that marker position that I dragged over to the other side of the building when I first set the job up. It's telling us also who was on site, when they were on site, and we've got some summary tools here at the beginning. We like to summarize information right at the top so your clients can see exactly what's going on without having to read the entire report. Next, we've got some recommendations showing. 1 low risk, 1 medium risk, and 1 high risk. The table of contents is all automatically generated from the information that you input. This will grow and shrink depending on what you've got in the report. Things like the introduction are generally hard-coded onto a layout, but we can customize templates however you like. So if you have your own introduction, your own caveats, exclusions, and so on, just send them over to us and we'll make sure that they are either hard-coded onto this layout or easily accessible via some sort of drop-down. Now we've glossed over a lot of information in this survey, but you can see there's an opportunity to put in things like the responsible person, competent person, and the fire safety manager. If you know the date of the previous and the next assessment, you can pop those in too. Any actions that have been derived from the survey are going to show here. They're grouped by category and also by the risk level. So you can press these view buttons anywhere you see them, and it'll take you straight to the page with a bit more information about that particular hazard. In this case, we had 2 non-compliant arson hazards. This summary status will depend on the individual statuses of the occurrences that you found. Any non-compliance will mean it's overall non-compliant. If they're all compliant, it's overall compliant. And if you have a mixture of compliance and not applicables, then it may be an overall compliant too. Let's go ahead and change one of these compliance statuses. I'm going to go into here. I'm going to find our arson hazards. I'm going to open this one up here. I'm going to change this to compliant, yes. So because this is still a non-compliant, it's overall non-compliant. If this one was also compliant, it's now overall compliant. So the idea here is you could walk around the building, jotting down any occurrences of things that you found, and the overall status of the question will just take care of itself depending on the compliant versus non-compliant things that you've entered. Now, it might be that you don't want to include something like I said before. So the options, just going back to that, is you can either mark this as not applicable, in which case it remains on the report but has this NA status. Alternatively, you can swipe to the left to delete, and then it'll be removed entirely from the report. If you remove all questions from a particular hazard group, for example, let's remove this one and also this one, then the cooking hazard group itself has also disappeared. Now on the report you can see that we condensed down the photos into these little thumbnail images, but you can still click on these. It'll take you to the full high resolution image where you can zoom in and get the extra detail. Now let's start resolving some of those errors. Now one thing I didn't show you were the recommendations. So you can see here, this is a list of any recommendations with the category hazard and comments all shown in one place. You can also see the overall compliance status and the priority. Now let's go ahead and start resolving some of those errors. Let's see what we've got here. So this one is because we've got a lot of these preset items that we haven't answered. I'm not going to go through and answer all 83 of them now, but you could either answer them, mark them as not applicable, or delete them. Those are your options. Next is it's asking us what the action timeframes are. So if something is a low, medium, high, or critical risk, we need to provide some suggestions as to when they should be fixed. So let's go ahead and put those action timeframes in. I'm going to use a quick fill to save myself some time. So critical risks must be dealt with immediately, high risks in the short term, medium in the medium term, and low risks when appropriate. It could be that you have something more specific here, for example, within 30 days, within 60 days, and so on. Now that message about the action timeframes is deleted. The next one is saying we're missing our overall risk score. Let's head to the overall risk score section and score up this survey. This is something you're going to want to do at the end of the survey. If you want to put some additional comments, you could pop those here too. Heading back to the report, that message has now disappeared. And you can see also we've now got the overall risk rating here in the report. The remaining errors are about the sign-off. So this report is awaiting a sign-off for quality control, and it's awaiting a sign-off for issued. We're going to go into the sign-off section. I'm going to add a new item, and I'm going to use a quick fill to save myself a bit of time. I'm going to say we signed this off today, and click Save. Heading back to the report, we've now done the quality control sign-off, but we haven't done the issued sign-off. So let's do that one too. I'm going to say this was issued today. Click Save. And now we just have that last question about the 83 inspection items missing the status, which we're not too worried about for now because we know how to fix it. So once you've completed your quality control checks and you're happy with the report, you'll want to send the completed PDF to your client. The way you do that is to press the download PDF button here. Now I'm going to full screen this to make it a bit bigger. And the first thing you'll notice is we now have the page breaks. We also have the headers. And if I scroll down, we have the footers with your job ID, and the page numbers are shown in the bottom right hand corner, like so. Anywhere where there was a view link has now changed into a page number, as you can see here. You can click on any of these page numbers and it will take you straight to that section. Once you're happy with this report, you're going to want to send it to your client, whether that's by email, as a PDF in an email, or if they have some sort of client portal, perhaps you could upload it there. Either way, this is the finished result, this is the finished product, what you're going to provide to your client. So up to this point, we've mostly covered the mobile app, we did some QCing of the report, and I showed you how to issue the report to your clients. But what about the office admin tasks? How do you manage the day-to-day operations? Let's take a look at the dashboard. I'm going to show you some of the power and the features that we have there. So the first thing to do is I'm going to mark off the QC stage as complete because we've done that. And I'm going to leave this last stage as incomplete for the time being, just to show you something in a second. Let's head up to the jobs list and see what's going on here. Now, we didn't talk too much about this at the start of the demo, but this is all of the jobs you've currently got on the go. In other words, where one or more of the pipeline stages is incomplete. For this one here, the last stage hasn't been complete. This one here hasn't had any stages complete. Once all pipeline stages are marked as complete, the job will go into the completed jobs. So they're still there, but they're slightly out of the way. Your default view for the jobs list is any incomplete jobs, so those complete ones don't clutter up that initial view. It's only things that you're currently working on. Now you can filter this jobs list in lots of different ways. I could say show me all of the fire risk assessments which are awaiting site work. You can see the first stage isn't complete. If I say awaiting QC, the first stage is complete and the subsequent ones aren't. And if I was to say awaiting issued, we see that one we've been working on today because we didn't mark off that last pipeline stage as complete. Other things you can do here are to search by tag. I did mention that tags make the search more powerful. This is what I was getting at. So if I search for all of the commercial jobs, you can see this is now a much shorter list. If I was to search for the commercial and urgent jobs, we now only have 2 jobs here which have both of those tags. Now if you have a client on the phone, you might just want to search for them by name. You can see here it's found some jobs, and even though we've actually got a typo, it says Northumbria University, but it's picked up the client with Northumbria University because of our advanced typo tolerance. Now I have one last thing to show you, which is reinspections and copying reports. Our clients love us when they sign up to our app and realize how much time it's going to save them. But they love us even more in a year's time when they go back to reinspect the same sites. Because we allow you to copy an old report to save time, this saves you a lot of data collection, data entry during the reinspection of the same property. So let's imagine we're going to do a reinspection of that one we've been working on today. First of all, let's go ahead and find it. So it was this one here. I'm going to open up this original report and I'm going to copy it. By doing so, this report will go into my clipboard, which follows me around wherever I go. You can see here we've got the report in the clipboard. Now we just need to navigate to a job to pop this into. In reality, you would have created a brand new job for the reinspection. I'm just going to pick a random one. Let's say this one here. I'm going to open up my clipboard and I'm going to say copy here. Now it prompts me, what do I want to copy? I'm going to say it's everything, but I don't want to copy the overall risk score because that's likely to have changed. The timeframes are going to remain the same. And I also don't want to copy certain things around about recommendations and the compliance status, comments, priority and caption. Everything else is going to be the same. I press continue. What this does is it leaves the old report entirely untouched and it makes an exact clone. The other thing it does is it marks up every section for review if there was data. So you can see here there was something in general information. In this case it was the design and construction. So I can make any changes I want to here. Click save. As soon as I do so, the highlight gets removed. For the inspection and action plan, we copied over all of this information from the first one, and that's why each item is shown in red. You could either go in individually, make any changes you needed to and click save. Alternatively, you can manually toggle off the highlighting here, so it's up to you. Once you've removed the highlighting from all of them, the section itself will turn grey. So you just continue on in this way, getting things ready for when you have to rock up on site, and then when you're on site again, it's just a case of putting in those missing compliance statuses, photographs and so on. But you've saved yourself a lot of time during the data collection. Another thing you may want to consider specifically for these types of fire risk assessments is that if you're doing assessments for different building types, for example, perhaps a high-rise block of flats or a school, you may want to create some sort of default template report that you simply copy time and time again when you're doing those types of jobs. And that's going to save you a lot of time having to work out which hazards are relevant for different building types. Finally, when it comes time to create the report, it's simply a case of selecting the relevant layout like before and viewing that report preview. Obviously you would have gone back and filled in the missing information about that particular report, but you can see here we've got various messages. The report always likes to keep you right if there's anything missing, but a lot of this information has been copied through from the first item. For example, we've got all the different hazards and questions and so on. So if you're an existing Flow Mobile surveying client, I hope this has been a useful refresher on how to use the PAS79-1 template. It's worth noting too that the template I've shown you here is based on the pro forma example in the PAS79, but we can customize templates for clients. We do have a different version of this one, which is a bit more condensed. And also we can create templates on different standards, for example, the British standard and so on. If you're not a Flow Mobile surveying client, but you are interested in this template and speeding up report writing time for your company, please get in touch. We're happy to set you up with a trial account so you can test out the system and see if it's a good fit. I hope this video has been helpful. If you have any questions, please get in touch. But I hope you're having a great day. I'll speak to you soon. All the best.